Hi, welcome to What the Heckle with Ben Farrell, the webcast, not the column or the blog, the webcast, brand new to YouTube, and you can find it on What the Heckle with Ben Farrell, the fan page on Facebook, so look me up. Real quick, because you'll see it in the video, I ruptured my bicep a few weeks ago, moving a cabinet down some stairs, and they put me in one of these things. I do have some mobility now since the surgery, but if you see that on there, that's why. We call it the bionic arm, and I'm kind of hoping once it comes off I'll have some sort of superpower with my left arm finally, because I've always wanted one of those. So yeah, make sure you stretch out, kids, before every meal. I don't know, just don't rupture your bicep. I don't advise it. It didn't hurt too bad, but nobody wants to be in one of these things. So be careful when you're moving a cabinet for your girlfriend's stepfather. What we're going to do with this first episode of What the Heckle with Ben Farrell is we are going to look at changing head coaches. And the reason why we're doing that is because a lot of the schools that we cover in Community Media of Colorado, there's a lot of new head coaches this fall season. We have a new boys tennis coach in both Heritage and Rock Canyon. We have new softball coaches at Heritage and Castleview. We have a new boys soccer coach at Douglas County. Now I imagine when you change a head coach, there's got to be pros and cons. There's got to be maybe a new energy that comes to the program that's much needed, much like Elizabeth Volleyball. They got a new head coach, and he's like rocking it out there now, so good for them. But I also imagine that it can't always be easy. So we're going to talk to a couple people, figure out what's involved when you have to change a new head coach. So when I was putting this together, I wanted to speak to Tim Ottman out at Ponderosa High School in Parker, and the reason for that is that they have had a different head coach for the last 4 years, every year, for the girls basketball program. That means they have senior players over there who have not had the same head coach for 2 years in a row their entire high school career, and that's got to be frustrating. I don't care who you are. So when I sat down with Tim, I asked him point blank, what is with the change of the Ponderosa girls basketball program? Why so many head coaches? And what are the factors that have led to that constant turnover?
Yeah, I really thought long and hard about that question, because there's been so many different reasons that we've had 4 coaches in 4 years. And so looking at the different reasons over the past 4 years, communication skills or lack thereof was a big part in one person not being rehired. Lack of commitment for off-season work and feeder programs that we just talked about again. You know, she good varsity coach, but kind of locked everything up after the season was over. Didn't see him again for several months, which just can't happen with head coaches these days.
And after speaking to him, he said, yes, it is very difficult to create that legacy-worthy program when you have to keep changing your head coaching personnel. And that the only true successful programs have that consistency in their coaching staffs. And it's difficult to get an athlete to buy into a new coach's system sometimes.
I think there's also a real lack of people who want to stay and build, have the patience and the work ethic to build a program. And it's easy to come into a successful program and take it over and do whatever, but to stay here for 5-10 years and build it yourself, I just don't think we haven't had a lot of luck finding those type of people, so that plays into it. In addition, Ponderosa being a little bit out here, it can be a difficult drive for business people who might work in Denver and then have to come out here at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So we've had drive time issues. Their real job gets in the way because we haven't been able to. Since have been downsizing for a long time, we haven't really been able to hire very many teacher coaches. So a lot of them what we call contract coaches, businessmen and women that come. So their real job takes precedence. And then finally, in some cases, we've had family issues where the coach is just away from his family and too long, and they're like, look, I'd love to stay and do this, but we can't. So over the last 4 years, we've had a multitude of factors, none of which have been, either parent-driven or athlete-driven, and it's just life in general and the situation that they're in.
I also asked him, how do you keep girls in the program despite having the inconsistency in the head coaching positions? And he said, unfortunately, a couple things happen. One, the girls leave, or the girls stay, because one, they'll leave and say, oh, I really like the last coach, I don't want to deal with a new coach, and they'll leave the program. Or they'll stay because they didn't like the previous coach and they're excited about a new coach. But the other thing is that the majority of the girls out there, he says, is they want to play basketball no matter what. One of the other things I was wondering is that there's, when you're changing a head coach position, there has to be concerns from the parents and players. And I asked him exactly what kind of concerns does he imagine that is going through the mind of a player or a parent when he has to make these kind of changes.
Well, the things that I thought of on that, I'm trying to think like a parent would think, but a lot of it is how will my son or daughter fit into the new program or with the new coach? What is his or her style, and where does my son or daughter fit that style? Will that new head coach keep the current assistant coaches? And sometimes parents, it can work both ways. Either they like this current assistant coaches and they want them to keep them more, maybe they don't, they want to change. So I think that goes through parents' heads. In addition, sometimes with new head coaches come additional demands on the athletes. So will he expect my son or daughter to work, to come to more open gyms, to lift weights? What are the off-season stuff that they'll require them to come to? And then, we mentioned this earlier a little bit in the first one about feeder programs, but I think it's real important. Parents sometimes, I've got a 6th grader or a 5th grader in addition to my high school kid, and what are you going to do, and do you care about about that level and that kind of thing. So those are things I think parents think of. It's really not a whole lot that you can anticipate, and until the person actually starts working.
One of the things I asked him was, as an athletic director, what do you do to hire a new coach? What do you look for?
Well, we look for their coaching and teaching experience has got to be one of the big things. If they've been a head coach, then what kind of success have they had? If they've been an assistant coach, then who have they been under and what kind of success has he or she had? And what kind of program are they coming from? Another big thing is communication skills. So many things break down with the lack of communication. So that's a big one. And it's hard to find that out in an interview. But a lot of times, checking references and doing things prior to hiring them, you can get an idea of what kind of communicator they are. A couple other big ones are they willing to work 10 months a year for very little pay? It's coaching is a tough thing to do. So you kind of have to have someone enthusiastic and with a high work ethic and ready to do that. In addition, feeder programs. Are they interested in feeder programs and building a program? Have they had experience with that? As you know, to be successful in high school sports, you got to have those youth programs that are feeding, to increase your talent. And then probably the final thing, or at least the last thing, is do they have the ability to bring in good assistant coaches with them, or are they going to try to keep the ones that they have? But a lot of times, a head coach will want to bring in his own staff. So those are some top things we look for when we're hiring a coach.
Tim also said there can be positives to hiring a new coach, and one of those things is a new energy that comes to the program, and people thinking with the hiring of each new coach there comes a sense of enthusiasm that the person will be the right one to turn the program around finally. And he also said sometimes the positives aren't even known right away. Sometimes it takes a little time for a coach to show their shortcomings or to actually show what they're planning to do for the program and for the program to have that success because of this change right away. It doesn't happen overnight. You have to have patience and you have to see what happens. Out here at Castleview High School, the softball team is now coached by Kaylee Tabola, who replaces Sean Weiss, who actually took the team to the state championship playoffs. Kaylee Tabola is actually the daughter of Richard Tabola, who's the head coach of the Ponderosa softball team and also one of the top contenders of the Continental League title. Of course, that's only if they can get past Castleview.
This This is my first school. Well, that's not true. When I was in college still, I coached at Ponderosa High School under my dad, who's the head coach, Toby Spola. And then when I got hired here at Castleview, I was coaching under Sean Weiss. And this is my first year as a head coach. So I graduated high school in 2003, and I went to CU, graduated in 07, and I've been working here ever since.
As a new head coach of any program, what do you think is the top priority? What has been your top priority specifically?
I think it's just kind of to establish your culture as a team, and do the same good things right. And if you think that things need to be done differently, then institute those, and just kind of develop a culture of a team, because a new head coach brings a new culture, and get the girls on track and take it in the direction you want to.
How do you go about building a culture for a team like this?
Well, we took a trip at the beginning of the season down to Colorado Springs. We took them out of school, and we spent 2 full days together, and we just practiced hard, and we played scrimmages, and we talked about what's important to us as a team, and that's supporting each other and offering criticism when necessary, constructive criticism, and not being afraid to do that. Just holding each other accountable and having a really positive attitude as a team.
I imagine it's got to be frustrating to some degree taking over a head coach's position. What has it been like for you out here?
I think you have to deal with last season we didn't have a good season. We had an ineligible starting pitcher the whole season. We had parents that were upset. We had girls that were upset. So I think having to come in and kind of overcome that from the beginning has been a frustration. Having to deal with parents is a frustration. Probably the biggest frustration. My girls are fine. Me and my girls were fine. So I haven't had too many obstacles so far. I think I've been really lucky to come into a good group of girls and a supportive administration and all that. So I wouldn't say I've been that frustrated, but I think just kind of overcoming habits that have been put in place from a previous head coach, if you disagree with them, or trying to break those down and just have people buy into a new system. Sometimes can be hard.
How hard has it been trying to get some of the girls who had such a good connection to Coach Sean Weiss to buy into whatever system you're bringing to the program?
I've been lucky because I was on the coaching staff under the last head coach, so I've known the girls and we have a relationship, so not too much has changed. A couple things have been hard to buy in. We're going to bunt a heck of a lot more than Coach Weiss did, just because he kind of had more of a baseball mentality. So to get him to buy into that, I think has been challenging. But other than that, they know me. I teach here. They have a good relationship with me, and we've been fine.
Do you find that your youth makes it easier for these girls to identify you, or are there any problems in that?
It's a double-edged sword. For the girls, I think it's great. They relate to me. I'm not that far removed from what they think is fun and funny and entertaining. I know what it feels like to be a high school softball player. It wasn't that long ago. I haven't forgotten. So I think we connect on a lot of different levels. Sometimes it's hard for them to see you as an authority figure when you're really not that much older than them. Although building quality relationships with them and letting them get to know you and respect you, I think that need for authority automatically just kind of happens. I haven't had any issues with respect or anything like that, so I'm really fortunate. The parents are another side of that. They have a hard time, I think, listening to someone who's half their age telling them what to do and what's appropriate and what's not appropriate. So I would say that's a bigger challenge than the girls with the youth. The youth to me has been not a problem with my team.
Tell me, how excited are you to play Ponderosa in the Continental League schedule since your dad is the coach?
I'm excited for the whole season. I think we have a ton of potential. The Ponderosa game will be interesting just because it's father versus daughter, and most of what I do as a coach comes from him. I think my dad's an excellent coach. So I'm looking forward to it. He makes me nervous. Obviously, they're going to be really good. But I think he's got to watch out, too. I think we bring a lot to the table. So it'll be fun.
All right, well, that takes care of the first episode of What the Heckle with Ben Farrell, the webcast. Thanks for joining me. Thanks for logging on. Remember, you can find my fan page on Facebook by just searching What the Heckle with Ben Farrell, and you can find me on YouTube if you search the channel Doc Rat Entertainment. That's Doc Rat Entertainment or What the Heckle with Ben Farrell. Thank you. We'll see you next time.